You met her yesterday. She's still working hard, playing fair, and staying honest. Part 2 of Liz Gilland coming up next on Carolina People. Good morning. Welcome to Carolina People. This morning with the Waccamaw Community Foundation on Business 17 in Murrells Inlet. We're on part 2 with the Honorable Liz Gilland, Chairman of Horry County Council. Good morning, Liz.
How are you?
A happy Wednesday morning to you. I know
thanks.
you'd normally, I think you shared with us, be heading somewhere else later this morning down to Georgetown.
Usually on Wednesdays I go to Georgetown for a Bible study at First Baptist Church.
Right,
Marion
right.
Bishop teaches, and it's incredible. I go as often as I can.
Now, do you hook up with your sister when you're down there?
I do. We try to sit together. It's the first opportunity we've ever had in our lives to enjoy a Bible study at the same time together. And last year, when I was a little more regular at the Bible study, we sat together every time, and it was just a joy.
Wow.
Just a fun thing.
That is good to see your sister county every once in a while. And, of course, knowing that I think you shared with us yesterday morning that you had spent much of your summers or much of your youth, 5 months of the year, at least in Garden City, which borders...
Actually, it was in Myrtle Beach. We had a house in Myrtle Beach at the time.
Oh, at that time. That's right.
Yeah.
I think you shared yesterday you still have a home in Garden City now, though, right? Yeah,
Right.
yeah. But you were spending time in Myrtle Beach then. So on this side of the waterway, obviously, a lot of your youth.
I feel like I grew up on both sides, so I had the best of both worlds, I think.
Absolutely. Later this morning, I think you said you're heading back to Conway, though.
We've got a special announcement today. There's a press conference at Nye's Drugstore, which when I was in high school, although those many years ago, was the happening place in Conway.
Really? Yeah.
Every Sunday, all the kids circle the drugstore, drive the route around town, and so we're making the announcement there. We've gotten... the National Association of Counties has introduced me, and I introduced the county to a prescription drug discount card.
Right.
So if you don't have insurance, you can get one of these cards for free, and you'll have a list of drugstores in the county or in Georgetown County if they've signed up for the program. And when you buy your prescription drugs, most of the ordinary ones, you'll get a discount.
And
that's huge.
That is tremendous. Absolutely.
And
so
Nye's
viewers
is one of the drugstores.
could come out later this morning at 10. That'll be a
Yes.
public announcement.
And as a matter of fact, I have a box of those cards in the trunk of my car. Because nowadays, whenever I'm around somewhere, I'll say, do you have insurance? If you don't have a card, it'll knock money off your prescriptions, you and anyone in your family.
That is tremendous, Liz.
It's huge, and I'm so thrilled with it.
And you
That's
said
a
you
real
picked
help.
this up at a conference.
At a national convention. Every year I try to go to the Midsummer NACO convention. That's the National Association of Counties. Because I get to mingle with folks from the 3,000 other counties in the United States.
Yeah,
and,
right.
and pick up great ideas. And this is one that I brought home and had our human resources folks look into it, and they thought it was a good deal. And we convinced some of the local drugstores to sign on to the program, and now we're getting ready to kick it off today.
That is tremendous. Okay, 10 a.m. at Nye's Pharmacy in Conway, and that's pretty easy to find.
Oh, yes, it's on
Right.
501, or Church Street, as we call it when it gets to Conway.
Very easy to find then, yes. Of course, you know, so many things going on, and obviously Horry County Council, your service there. We think back, was there anything that opened that door for you to actually run for county council? Was there something? I know yesterday morning you talked a little bit about having been on the radio, so people knew you in town or knew you throughout the county.
They did, and one morning on the radio show in April of '92, I was looking at the paper while I was playing the music to see if there was anything I could poke fun at, say, you know, give for information, just to chatter about. And I saw on the front page an article that talked about adult entertainment and how people from around the country were beginning to phone call Horry County to find out what the restrictions were, because the word was out there were hardly any restrictions, and we had golfers by the millions and other tourists coming here every year, and we were ripe for them to move in, and we were looking like there was going to be a sudden proliferation. And so I said something on the radio, and I just said what I felt, that if we don't want to be overtaken and ruin our family resort community, which is what is our financial base for the county, that we needed to stand up and take a stand, that we needed to get out and tell we didn't want the variance committee board giving variances to have these places where they shouldn't be. And,
right.
and the line formed behind me, and from April of 92 until December, I fought the good fight, and I spoke out. I was on the radio and television. I spoke to all sorts of church groups and civic groups and community groups about why this was important. I wrote the new ordinance. At the time, they allowed citizens to put ordinance forth. After I did that and it passed, finally in December, they changed the law. So then I had to run for council in order to help make a difference. But people during that time, when I became such a reluctantly public person, began to ask me to run for the state. Actually, they were asked me to run for the House. And there was no incumbent that year. And I prayed about it and asked a few people to pray with me about it. And I got a two-part answer that was as clear. It was just one of those knowings that that's the answer. And the answer was, keep your eye on the political arena, but not this time. And so I waited for 2 years. And I watched and I read and I listened and I went to council meetings and I thought, I'm supposed to do this, not Columbia. I'm more concerned with what's local. Of course, after I won my first election, I realized in just a few months how much of what we do here is, quite honestly, as I would say it, hindered by the guys making the rules in Columbia about what a county can and cannot do. And I remember saying to Martha Hunn, who at the time was the public information officer for the county, I guess I'll have to run for a seat in Columbia next. But that was 14 years ago. But that's what, people asked. I prayed, and then I was probably the most naive politician, in quotes, to ever run, or person to ever run for political office. I thought, honestly, that if you did your homework, you debated, put forth the ideas, you weighed the issues and just did what you thought was the best, that you would just be popular because you were doing your best for the county and to make it better. And oh my goodness, I found out early on, you're just not going to be popular with everybody if you're in the political arena. But again, I do my best. I try to look at the big picture, county as a whole, and do what will serve the common good as much as it can.
So each 4 years before deciding to run again, obviously you start the praying again and think in the same way that you possibly even have contemplated. I don't know if you've thought again about what those original prayers 14 years ago would it be Ori? Would it possibly be Columbia, where there are prayers that would impact both of them?
You know, Greg, I approach each election with the idea of, am I supposed to do this? If I don't get a no, then I'm going to go ahead and file. And then what will be, will be. And I'm probably I may be one of the most calm and cool people on election night because this job is not who I am. And I don't own it. And if there is something else I'm supposed to do, I won't win re-election. And I'll go do something else. And I'll be just as happy and have more time, I would think, to have a personal life. But I do my best, and I've been hearing rumors for 2 terms now that I was going to run for a position in Columbia, and this may be the time that it's true.
How exciting, Liz! Now,
if I'm ever going to, I think it would be this time.
Your home is in Conway, and so
I just bought my first house ever in my
Congratulations!
whole wide life. In the historic part of Conway, it's a 90-year-old home.
Is that right?
But the people that lived there before me renovated it, fixed it up. It's still quaint. One of the kitchen has 5 doors, 2 outside doors, and 3 inside doors. It's just wonderful. It's rambling and small, but large.
With the county council chairman's salary, it'd have to be kind of small. That's right. With what
Conway
you shared
National
yesterday.
Bank actually owns it, and I'm hoping
Conway National Bank. Yes.
But it's I'll probably spend more time in my golf cart back and forth to the office building than in my car now.
I love it.
So that's kind of fun.
Being there in Conway and knowing that area well, and obviously whether it's the House or the Senate, whatever you determine to do, or remaining and dedicated as you are, either way, you'd be dedicated to the people of Horry County.
Absolutely.
Right.
And I'm likely not going anywhere. I bought my house. I felt like I walked in the door and it felt like home. And I've never had that experience in my life. So I'll be here
exciting.
a while.
You shared with us yesterday.
As best I can tell.
Obviously, that it was your mother that brought you back to the county. It's still your mother who you're intimately involved with on a daily basis, obviously. I think you shared every night, even last night, with her and caring for her to help her get to sleep.
Unless I've got something I have to go to,
Right.
and every now and then something I choose to go to.
Right.
I try to get by every night for a couple hours.
Yeah, that's wonderful.
But as far as the county goes, we've got a strong council, strong personalities, good guys, and one good gal.
Ooh, listen up.
That try to do our best for the
There's
county.
only one woman on council,
One
that's
woman.
yourself. There's only one chairman, that's yourself. How many men are on council? I mean, how many?
11.
There are
11 districts in the county.
Okay.
They each run district-wide.
Right.
I'm the only one that runs county-wide.
What does the chairman do exactly? I mean, how does the different, other than you're running county-wide and they're each running district-wise, what is your typical council day like? And that is council, of course, you have a council every day for you, but...
And honestly, there are no typical days.
Right.
It just depends on what's going on. I will have meetings with people. I have committee meetings, and I try to make as many committees as I can. I finally put myself officially on a committee, so I don't miss that one unless I'm out of town on another council thing.
Right.
But I approve the agenda. I communicate a lot with the administrator, the attorney, the division directors.
Right.
I try to communicate with the public. I bring ideas to council. I try to help with economic development. I think that is an issue that I've tried to focus on, because as long as I was on council, before I was chairman, I always wondered why the chairman didn't take a more upfront role in economic development, because in most other countries particularly, the position is all important. So we can take a group over to Germany or the eastern
Asia,
part of the
right.
world, to Asia, and if you have a title, you suddenly are important and people listen. And it doesn't matter if I'm a woman,
Right.
but it's
Good.
just the title. So I knew it would make a difference. So I took it upon myself to be much more involved in economic development issues, and I've taken a number of trips just this past year.
That's right, absolutely. I think when I saw you in late October, you'd just gotten back from one, and we're maybe
Oh, my
leaving
goodness.
soon thereafter on another.
I think I almost killed myself this fall. I have always loved to travel, which is good, because I've done a lot this past year on behalf of the county. I went with the chamber to a trade conference in England in March, I think it was.
The Myrtle Beach Area Chamber, right?
Myrtle Beach Area Chamber. I went to Germany with economic development, with Myrtle Beach Regional Economic Development
Good.
in
With them bread, right?
May.
Right.
I think it was May. September I was in Germany again.
Wow.
October I was in Japan. I came home for less than 10 days and turned around and went back to China. And the only
Liz.
reason I came home was because council could have done without me, but my mom, she couldn't be without me that long coming in, and I needed to do that for her. But I think at one point I crossed 46 time zones in less than 30 days.
Golly,
And it just
Liz.
about, it took a toll on me, more than when I was a lot younger, I tell you. But it mattered.
And does it? Share with us how
really
that matters.
does.
I mean, how is it, right?
Economic development
Right.
is difficult because it's not a short process. It is rarely a short process. It takes time. And in the Asian part of the world, you have to build relationship. But that's true almost everywhere. But it just takes time, and nothing happens quickly. I can tell you that between now and June, I'm hoping we'll have a couple of announcements. One in particular from Germany.
Great.
One from the United States, that all I've gotten to do is meet, well, maybe two. Meet with the people, encourage the people. Fortunately, this one group came to council. The one meeting I had the night after I got back from Japan and was leaving for China, and I was so jet lagged, but for whatever reason, even I recognized that I was on that night. And the guy came up to me after the meeting and he said, I've been to a lot of council meetings, city and county, and this was the best run meeting I've ever seen. And I went, thank you, Lord. I needed to be, because if that has a tiny bit of difference in their decision,
on their decision, absolutely,
then I will have done my job. But that was a great night, because I felt like I was on that night with parliamentary procedure and running the council and handling the audience, and it was a good night.
I love it,
and it was
Liz.
a perfect timed good night.
Sure, and for viewers who haven't attended meetings, and that's the first and third Tuesday of every month.
Right.
For viewers
6
who
o'clock.
haven't attended, at 6 o'clock, and it's there at the big judicial center there in Conway. Easy to find, and it's clearly open to the public.
Absolutely.
A guest recently had shared that public input's a real important facet, and there's a lot of other things that happen at meetings that people may not know about.
By ordinance, I think it is. We have 30 minutes at the beginning of each meeting. Sometimes we used to do it later in the meeting, early on in my council career, But we take the first 30 minutes after the invocation and the pledge, and we set the agenda and approve the minutes. Then we have 30 minutes of public comment. And if you sign up ahead of time, up until the day before that meeting, you just call and get your name on the list and the topic. You get 5 minutes.
Wow.
You get to talk about anything. If you're an Horry County resident, whatever you want to talk about. My only rule is you don't make personal attacks. And you don't call people by name and badmouth them.
Let alone a council member. Sure.
Yes, right. You just don't get personal about it. But you can talk in general. And sometimes the general is fairly specific.
Right.
Because they're yelling about a council district or the chairman.
Yeah.
But that's okay. People deserve to have a voice. Government needs to be open. And if we are sitting up there doing the job that we're doing, then we need to be able to take the heat as well as the good things.
I love it. I love it. Speaking of that, I was visiting, separate from Horry County, but a personal website, LizGilland.com, and there were some great frequently asked questions on there, but a lot of them were what are probably oftentimes heard by you as personal attacks, where they're claiming this or that, some crazy stuff. But the great thing is you take them head on. You either sit back and listen to them and take them in, write them out, and then make sure you take the time to respond to them. Think about them. That's important.
I haven't paid attention to that website
I'm
since the last
sure.
election,
Yeah,
so they're old questions, but some of them are still very
Absolutely.
pertinent.
Very definitely.
But I will say one thing, too. When I came on council as chairman, when I could have a little more say in things, I elected to do away as much as possible with any executive sessions.
Share with viewers real quick, executive session means what? I mean, what's the significance?
Means council goes into executive session, we get up and go into a private room, and only those that we invite in can come. And we talk. When I was on council for years, it was a set part of the agenda. I finally told the clerk to take it off the agenda altogether because we went for so long without having one. But we would go behind closed doors and discuss government policies and issues for, sometimes it was over an hour. And then come back and everyone would have left and the audience on television would have gone to sleep or gone to bed or started watching something else, and then we would, say whatever we needed to do out in front. But it really was. And things that were often discussed that shouldn't have been. So I said, we're just not going to do it anymore unless we absolutely have to. There are only a few times that we absolutely have to. And honestly, we've had one executive session in the last 3.5 years.
Is that right?
And when we came out from executive session, I could not remember the little lines I was supposed to say to bring us out and what we were supposed to do. It was really kind of humorous if anybody watched. It lasted about 15 minutes. It was a personnel issue. But that and contractual issues, when the county is in a contractual relationship with another entity, you can't, in any contractual issue, folks will know you can't lay all your stuff on the table and let the other side know when you're trying to bargain for the best place you can get, especially if you're doing it for the people. But we've managed to do that fairly rarely as well.
That's wonderful.
So I'm pretty pleased about that. That is not only rare, it is so extremely rare that other council members that I speak with from other places say to me, how do you do it? And I just said, I believe in open government. We try to do everything right out there in the public, warts and all.
And you even felt that way when you didn't have control as the chairman. You felt that way. It's difficult, though. I mean, the chairman, essentially, you do set the agenda, is that correct? You said whether or not that's going to happen or not.
Yeah, and council members can vote to have one anyway, and on any issue on the agenda, they can vote, if they really want to have an uprising, they can vote to suspend the rules and do something that I think is not the best thing. And that has been done.
It ultimately all comes down to numbers. Either you can count or not. It's just, 6 to 5, or
actually, it's 12 of us, so it's 6 to 6 is still considered a defeat for whatever the issue is. If you get a 6-6 vote, it fails because the majority didn't pass it. But that's still more awkward than it should be. And if I had my druthers, county council would be 9 people. We would save tons of money, tons of trees, because everybody has to get a copy of everything, a lot of time, because everybody wouldn't have to have camera time, and we could run just as effectively. But it would take a council vote and then a public affirmation by a vote. And it's hard to get politicians to vote to do away with their jobs.
Much like it is on redistricting oftentimes as folks are crafting up congressional districts,
cutting
or even
out
their
what
own
their
House
best,
and
where their
Senate
strengths
districts.
and weaknesses, cut them out.
That's Another very difficult thing for folks to work through, and something we really do need some better public input and better involvement of lots of folks on redistricting, whether on the federal or the state level. So much has to happen. Obviously, economic development, a big piece. You've served now on council. What year did you actually join county council, Liz?
January of '95.
January of '95.
Yeah.
So just
So
12 years and starting your 13th, right, in January of 90, I'm not very good. Let's see, of 2008, that'll be.
I'm not good at math either.
95, that'll be. That's right,
like
13 years. Yeah. In January of 2008, which is very exciting that it's right around the bend there, and obviously to think about so many activities that have to happen on council there, and recognizing the importance of really getting out. Do you feel like you've changed much over the 12, soon to be 13 years of service?
I've changed in the amount of time I spend at my job, because I always vowed I would never lose my life in my job, whether in pursuit of riches or in pursuit of whatever job, but I've sort of done that. It sucked most of my personal time away. But when it comes to who I am, I don't think so. And I even have said to my friends early on, if you ever see me changing because of this job, you get in my face, because I will quit before I change. Because, not that I was perfect or am perfect, but I was comfortable in my own skin, and I still am, which is why I'm much more blunt than most politicians. If you ask me a question, I'm going to tell you the truth. If you ask me how I feel, I'm going to tell you, and I won't tell you and turn around and tell the person that feels the other way what he wants to hear. Life's too short. I don't have time, and I won't lie, because I'm getting to the age that I have too hard a time remembering. So I can't have but one story.
Good for you. You still feel comfortable with these 6 words: the work hard, play fair, stay honest. Work hard, play fair, stay honest.
The only campaign promises I know I can uphold are ones that pertain to me, because otherwise it's a majority vote.
Sure.
I'm not dictator.
That's a great point.
I can promise to work hard, and I do, to play fair, and I do, or at least I think I do, and stay honest, and I have. And, you know, I look at the political season, which we're in the middle of now, nationally, and we soon will be statewide, and I roll my eyes at political promises and campaign speeches, because I am just an ordinary person who has an extraordinary job. But campaign promises, don't believe them.
I like it. That's very easy, Liz. Now, I wonder why more council or potential councilmen and women don't take the time to step back and say, boy, Liz has got it right on. I need to just go with that. That would surely make the billboards and the signs a lot easier.
Well, and I always do the little tiny signs with the big Liz, and by now people know. So, you know, I bring to the table who I am and what I know, and how I've changed is I know so much more about things that I never wanted to know before. I know about building roads and infrastructure and weep holes and berms and, you know, all sorts of terms with development and things about budgets. And, but it's good knowledge, because I put it to use. And I can tell a new council member when they come up with a great idea, you know what? Think about it first, because here's what happened when we had that good idea 5 years ago. This is why it crashed and burned and it didn't work, and have you ever thought of this? And they'll go, ooh, I'm glad I asked you first, because been there, done that. And there are some things that seem like a good idea when you're on the outside looking in. I'm going to cut taxes. I'm going to cut out the fat. You get into this job and you find there's not a whole lot of fat. We squeeze to meet the budget each year, and there is an extreme reluctance in Horry County to ever raise taxes. And I've always been accused of being a tax and spender. Of course, as an English major, I look at the terms and I think, well, of course, you don't tax and keep. That's the purpose of taxes, is to spend it on public service and doing the things that government has to do, is mandated to do, and is expected to do. And what we do when we don't raise taxes is we raise other things, and then we start cutting services. Sometimes it's unseen, but sometimes it's very obvious. The millage that we have currently is less than the millage when I started on council.
In 95.
It's we've risen a little bit at a time, but we keep rolling back in assessment years. But we also squeeze the dollars well. And when I say tax increase and can vote for a tax increase, that might be in an extreme. We've not done this. 2.5 mills. If you have a $100,000 house, that's $10 a year. $200,000 a house, double that. And for the poor folks, they either don't own their homes, or they can't afford $10 a year. That's less than a pizza, and it may mean another ambulance or two. It may, because that's $1,600,000. That's a lot.
Doesn't sound like you're not
money.
good with numbers, Liz.
Well, I've
You
had
were
to learn
most
a
proud
few.
of what during your tenure on council, Liz?
We don't fight among ourselves before the cameras anymore. We're not ugly. I won't let them be. And of course, since I'm the chairman, and they can no longer be ugly to the chairman, and I was kind of the beanbag dummy for a while that got beat on. We look more professional. We act more professional. And so hopefully we are more professional.
Yeah.
I also brought 2 new ideas. One is we have a fall retreat. We'd always had a winter budget retreat, and we focused only on that year. We never looked up to see what the future held, so you never had plans. I tried to do that. It has sort of evolved into more of a mid-year check.
Yeah.
Where are we with our money? What are new things that have come up? Where are we ahead of where we thought we'd be? Where are we behind? What are we going to start needing to look at for next year's budget?
We're
So
going to
it's
have to
great.
get you in another time to give us that second
I'm
one,
sorry.
Liz. Thank you so much for being
Greg,
with us this
thanks.
morning. Merry Christmas,
Merry Christmas to you.
next Tuesday. Absolutely. Stay tuned to more Carolina People, the Honorable Liz Gilland, coming up next. We were running out of time. I cut her off before she had a chance to highlight that second one, the State of the County address. I wanted to ask her if she was still planning one this year. She gave me the date, January 22nd. Write that down. It's a Tuesday, January 22nd, 6 p.m. One of those 2 amazing initiatives that have been kicked off in the State of the County address will be held. Tune in to HTC or Time Warner, or get out there, be there at the Judicial Center. You heard her say it, work hard, play fair, and stay honest. She made the rap real easy for us this morning. Check her out. Show up at the council meetings. Be a part of your government. It is your government, and she's your chairman.